Hey, this is the Maximum PC No BS podcast, episode number 204, and we are sitting here in this awesome room recording on June 3rd, 2013. Joining me today in the podcast, Associate Editor Tom McNamara.
Hello.
Our Executive Intern, Chris Zele.
Hello.
And returning champion, Deputy Editor Gordon Ma-Ung.
Hello.
And, of course, I'm your Senior Editor, Josh Norem. So today in the podcast, we're not going to cover too much because there's a lot of new hardware to cover, so it's like very few topics. We're going to go super, super deep. So first up on our list is 4th generation Intel Haswell CPUs finally arrived, Nvidia GTX 770, 4K LCDs, your questions, editor's picks, and Gordon is going to display a whole lot of unregulated hatred. Mm-hmm. Let's do it. Thank you so much for checking out the podcast. Whether or not you're a new listener or someone who's been around for a while, we appreciate everyone listening. We really do. We're always really busy with the magazine, and there's no real profit motive for the do the podcast. We just do it because you guys like it, and we like to do it. So thanks for listening. All right, so like we do each time, I'm going to start off here with a quick bit of iTunes love. All the editors here, we all look at our iTunes reviews. We like to read them. So thanks, everyone, for taking the time to send those in. I know a lot of you guys hate iTunes. You guys send us emails about that, too. We totally understand. iTunes sucks. All right, so let's start out here real quick. First, we want to give a shout-out to this guy named Tuba Tim. He gave us a 5-star review. He writes, I discovered Maximum PC while going through military training. On my first deployment, I used your new reviews online to guide me to my first computer build. I recently started listening to the podcast and wonder where it's been all my life. Thank you for all you do. Pretty good.
Nice. Cool.
Pretty good.
How far does our podcast archive go back, out of curiosity?
The podcast archive online goes all the way back to the beginning. The one in iTunes, I don't think they have the capacity to go back to the very beginning of time.
Yeah, I know. I think it'll go all the way back to the first podcast from, 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah. All right, well, Tuba Tim, if you're listening out there, thank you for your service. We appreciate it. We think our service here at the podcast is probably equivalent or better than military service.
Yeah. He's joking, obviously, for people who will take that incorrectly.
I consider myself a veteran. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for your service, Tuba Tim. We really do appreciate it. And we also appreciate your letter as well. Next review is from a guy named Micromanage. He goes 5 stars. He writes, great podcast, but it would be even more awesome if the moderator / time Nazi would stop being in such a big hurry. Smiley face emoticon. We also need more of Gordon's patented cursing. Hey, and since I know the time Nazi reads this, can we get a curse off between Gordon and that intern who uses a lot of vulgar language?
Wait, we need more we need more profanity from this guy over here?
I don't know. He's asking though if the young kid can take on the old veteran.
I'm not sure. Is Chris using it correctly though? I mean, he just kind of like.
He kind of throws it out without really. He's kind of wildly spraying.
So I am the young Padawan. Gordon,
if you think about it,
Gordon is the Jedi master of swearing.
I don't think that would be a very wholesome exercise for our younger listeners.
It's good. I think that's a good analogy. Yeah, Chris has got a lot of passion, and he just doesn't have a lot of. He doesn't really.
I don't know how to channel the force of the swearing.
Right. He needs just time and sort of practice.
Practice makes perfect.
he also could leave here, get a job at Apple, and totally convert.
Just go home and start hitting your fingers with a hammer, get you started.
I was thinking, you know what I was thinking? I was thinking, what if Chris's parents listened to this podcast and heard him using all those words and came into the office because they wanted to meet his coworkers, and then you had to introduce him to Gordon.
I'm not the only one who swears on this, though.
Just saying, maybe they wouldn't want their, kid being turned into like potty mouth. That's all. All right, now I always like to find these bad reviews, and there hasn't been that many. This is I have to go back 2 years. So if you guys have bad reviews, or if you want to just make up a bad review, please do. But don't put it on iTunes. Email it to us, maximumpcpodcast@gmail.com. All right, here's a good one. This is from a reader named One Iros. He writes, it's informative but too opinionated. 80% of the time I'm listening to everyone arguing over each other's points. It's one thing to voice your thoughts, but I'm tired of listening to the same horse being beaten on the ground. Give your listeners some factual information, please? ? Also, the let's complain about everything guy in the studio is getting old very fast.
It's true. I've run out of things to complain about.
Oh, damn. One IRS?
We need Windows to come
snap.
out with another. We need another operating system for Microsoft for us to bitch about.
Yeah. Plus, Apple's been kind of in hibernation mode for a while, so it's been a little bit difficult for Gordon, I think.
No, we have that one topic we could talk about. Apple.
No, I think Gordon switched from, well, we've kind of switched from Apple to Windows 8, but that's neither here nor there. All right, let's just get into it. We have lots to talk about today. So our first topic of discussion is basically all I have written on my piece of paper here is the word Haswell. So the embargo lifted today.
Saturday, actually.
Saturday.
And I believe it was, I mean, it's the strangest time for an embargo for media exposure in the U.S., but it was time for Computex, I believe.
It was 7 a.m. Pacific time.
So today's the June 3rd. Saturday, June 1st was when the embargo lifted, as well as when Computex started. But didn't you say it was like a limited embargo?
I don't know how you can talk about limited embargoes without talking about the part of the embargo that would not be lifted yet. Oh, wait, by the time this comes out, though, because we're not going to get this up in, by tomorrow.
No, it'll be out, later this
Right, so apparently the quad cores were lifted. We could talk about the quad cores on Saturday. And then this week at Computex, once I guess the show's under roll, they were going to let us talk about the dual cores.
All right. Well, before we get into this Haswell thing, I know we got a letter last time saying don't talk down to your readers. So I'm not going to go into the whole history here of Intel architecture, TikTok, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But can someone give us just a quick overview of what Haswell is and what it means?
Wait, they don't want us to wait,
well, I mean, no. So the last podcast I gave an explanation about where the current state of the GPU wars, and so it's kind of lengthy. That's all. Just kind of cut to the chase.
So what is Haswell? Haswell is the 4th generation Core i7. It is built on the same 22 nanometer process as Ivy Bridge. Yeah? Does that sound right so far?
Sounds
I don't
good.
remember all this. Has already been a week. It is the talk, of course, as Josh referred to, for people who don't know, and there are people who don't know, Intel has before, after getting their asses handed to them by AMD, switched to a TikTok thing where they would do 2 products. They had a tick product, which was a small product launch, and then the next product is where they sort of do all the big stuff. The way it worked was, since Intel always changes process like every 2 processors, Ivy Bridge is the tick. That was like the small jump forward. It was them moving from their previous 32 nanometer process to a new 22 nanometer process, and then Haswell is supposed to be the real shit.
It's like
right?
They do a new architecture, then a process shrink of it, and then a
Right.
new architecture, and then a process shrink of that. We went
Sort
from
of.
1156 to 1155, and now Haswell uses the LGA 1150 socket.
Yeah, but it really doesn't have anything to do with the underpinning socket. It's really about the process change. So you go tick, which is, Ivy Bridge is the tick, Haswell is a talk, Sandy Bridge was actually the talk, if I remember right. Yeah. Westmere is a tick.
So we've been talking about Ivy. We've been talking about Haswell for what seems like 6 months now in terms of it's coming. So now it's actually here in the lab, tested, benchmarked, approved, or not approved, but it's over with. So this is Gordon's chance to sort of just tell you his thoughts.
Yeah.
So it is, I think, a little underwhelming in some ways. Haswell is a better CPU. It moves everything forward. We just did our benchmarks. Chris helped me. We probably tested maybe 25 different applications. There's nothing that it is slower than Ivy Bridge at.
That's good.
The problem is, it's not a huge jump forward. Although, it's respectable. You're looking at roughly something 7% up to, I think we've seen a few things where up to 15, a little over 15%. So it's not an unhealthy, jump, but, some people have gotten used to this, like they were expected sort of 20% or more on everything.
Well, how big was 1156 to 1155?
There are some things where it was pretty significant, and then, it's so weird because you had this weird thing where you had 2011 mixed in there. Then you had, Sandy Bridge and 1155 mixed in there. So there are a lot of things that kind of got a little blurred up. But it's an incremental evolutionary change that I think some people probably would say this is more of a tick than a talk. Intel, of course, would say they'd argue otherwise because their big change was on graphics, where they have made actually a fairly significant jump forward in graphics. On the CPU side of stuff, 10% is still, not bad, right? 10 to 15% on average, generally. Same clock for clock. Core i7 3070K against Haswell. Top end part is 4770K. Same clock, 3.5, pretty much base, and then turbo's up to about 394.
And the IGP is much faster this time.
Yeah, the IGP is much faster. Of course, it does require a new socket. There, you can, if you have an existing Ivory Bridge or Sandy Bridge motherboard, you cannot just buy this new CPU and put it in there. It throws the old board away, which is kind of typical of Intel.
So and it also integrates the voltage regulators.
Right. That's the other big change is they've integrated the voltage regulation circuits directly into the CPU. That gives Intel essentially control over the voltage, the final voltage that goes into the CPU.
Well, it seems to increase the temperature, doesn't it? Like the wattage a little bit.
Right. So the Ivy Bridge 3770K was 77 watt TDP. This is an 84 watt TDP part for its equivalent high-end part.
You think it's because of the integrated?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Intel has said it is because of the fiber, as they call it, fully integrated voltage regulators in there.
Okay.
Wait, so what does that mean, though, for people that are overclocking and stuff?
Well, for overclocking, it's hard to say because I think it's still an early part. I have heard different reports from different vendors. For the most part, I think air overclockers, even possibly, sort of heavy-duty liquid water coolers, I wouldn't expect a miracle. I think 4.6, 4.7. There are, of course, the people who kind of get into the exotic overclocking, and there are more drag racers, and those guys are really pushing Haswell to 7? I think there were some undocumented 7 gigahertz reports.
Liquid nitrogen or whatever.
Right, so it's exotic. That's the exotic overclockers. They're not your everyday. You're actually I really think of those guys like drag racers, right? They get out here, they run this thing balls out for 2 minutes, enough to get screenshot a few benchmarks and get out, and that's enough. They're just like a drag racer. But if you actually expect to get in a Haswell part and drive it every day at work at 7 gigahertz, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, there were some early leak screenshots where the CPU was getting up to 5 gigahertz.
Those were
faked.
They weren't fake, but I think they were. I think the one thing I read was that the software they were using to record it, like CPU-Z, it was recording like some different. It was the recording not just standard voltage, but something like the VRM voltage or something.
Oh.
It was something different that wasn't.
Like CPU ID wasn't recognizing it properly.
Yeah, something like that.
But basically, Haswell is a good part. I mean, it is an evolutionary jump forward. It's not a huge increase. If you were to sum it up, I would say at this point, if I were to go out and build a new box, I would build on Haswell. It's dumb, frankly, to go out and build on Ivory Bridge. It's a dead socket. It's going out. So why would you even want to build around it?
Well, yeah, would you be, if you have a Sandy Bridge box, you're not running out to go get a Haswell?
No, if I had Sandy Bridge or even obviously Ivory Bridge, you're fine.
Yeah,
even if you have Sandy Bridge, you're okay too. I mean, frankly, there's probably cheaper upgrade paths for you within your socket.
What about what if you have an overclocked Sandy Bridge or an Ivy Bridge? You're pretty much fine. You're not going to get huge performance difference, are you?
Yeah, I will say one thing, and this is one of the readers already complaining about our web story, saying, how come you didn't do 2500K, 2600K? I didn't because I put a 3820 in there, which is an LGA 2011 part. For the most part, that's the same core that you're going to get out of a 2500K Sandy Bridge, 2600K. And actually, it gets thrashed pretty badly. I mean, there's some things where, you remember Ivory Bridge was maybe 10 to 15% faster than Sandy Bridge. So Haswell is 10 to 15% faster than that. So you're looking at, if you're running stock clocks, you're looking at a good, 20% sometimes? And that's pretty healthy. So I think, honestly, if you do feel it's a little slow, you don't want to go out to LGA 2011, but you do want to upgrade, it's not a bad idea. I mean, it's okay. You do get something out of it.
I got letters from people asking that there's people out there that have older platforms and they see Haswell coming out and they're thinking, awesome, or do I wait for Ivy Bridge E?
Right. So okay, let me. There's a couple other things I want to cover. To be fair to the reason why I would do Haswell is the big change in the chipset is you get all SATA 6 ports. Right. Intel has screwed us forever with the South Bridge, the PCH, where you only get 2 SATA 6 ports. That wasn't a problem 2 or 3 years ago because, everybody can only afford one SSD. But
Right.
really, these days, people are running more than one SSD. You only get 2 SATA 6 ports on Z77 or P67 or Z68. Kind of sucks, right?
Yeah, I mean, more. I would rather have more for sure, but I mean,
Right.
most people don't have more than 2 SSDs.
AMD can give it to you. They've given it to us for like forever. Why the hell can't Intel do it? Finally, Intel does it. The new Z87 chipset, is that right? Z88 or Z87?
Yeah.
Yep.
It does give you all SATA 6 ports. So,
Cool. That's nice.
But now to get into Ivy Bridge E or Ivy Town, and I think his other code names thrown around, that is basically Ivy Bridge in LGA 2011. It's basically Xeon rebadged. It's Core i7. It's going to give you 6 cores. I had heard rumors there might be an 8-core variant of it, but I've also now talked to some other people who said no, it's only going to be a 6-core version.
So they're not going to have like a 4-core like they have with the 3820?
Oh, they will have a 3820. I mean, they'll have so it'll probably just map over. You'll have a quad core, whatever, $280 3820, 4820 part. You'll have the 6-core, the 3930K part that'll be out in $500, $600, and then you'll have the extreme parts. But what we're not going to get is probably Core i7 branded 8-core version of Ivy Bridge. There will be 8-core Xeons that you can drop in there, possibly even more. I don't know if you can even do that, but you will be able to drop those into most LGA 2011 boards. Now, the question, of course, that is the big question on all my benchmarks. We did 4 chips. We did the 4770K, of course. We did 3770K, which is highest end Ivy Bridge. We did a 3820 in LGA 2011, and I did the 3930K, which is the 6-core Sandy Bridge E part, right? And for the most part, Haswell is faster than both of those, hands down. There's not a single thing where Haswell lost to 3820 or 3770K. There are some things where it was just 0 against 3770K in some of the graphics gaming benchmarks. But for the 6-core, it's actually pretty interesting. Definitely for multi-threaded tasks, if you are pushing 3D rendering, and we've said this for a long time, and it doesn't change. If you're doing video encoding, like Premiere Pro, the 6-core kicks the crap out of the Haswell and everything. Right, 6 cores is just simply better. Of course, all these have hyper-threading, so it's. I'll pull up some of the graphs here. I've got them here. Where the hell is it?
Hold on 1 second, you guys. I need to interrupt you real quick. Be really careful, Tom, because since your mic is turned up so high, I can hear you breathing into the microphone.
Okay.
So be just like, I can hear you like just inhaling and exhaling over and over and over. So be really careful about that.
Okay.
All right. So just chill and then talk.
I guess my gain is too high.
Well, yeah. I realize it's kind of I think it has to be a result of the gain because you're just I just hear this
Well, it's been like that on other podcasts too.
You should probably write down where that cutout's going to happen. Oh, damn it.
This is at 22:39.
So 22:39.
Just put 22 minutes. Sorry about that.
No
Thanks,
worries.
Tom.
All right, look, here's one run where I basically take a Blu-ray def file and I transcode it again using Handbrake to a lower resolution. I'm going to show the camera. Oh no, you fucking moved it.
What?
How are we going to know where it goes back?
Why?
Because it could be like pointing at Chris's nose hairs.
It's not that many. I thought it was wide enough that it would cover the whole room.
Yeah, I know, but we can see it from here.
All right. Well,
All right,
they can't see that from here, though, Gordon.
All right, they can't see it. That's cool. I'm going to read it off. So basically, you're looking at, and all the bars of this, you can see 3820, Sandy Bridge E, Ivy Bridge, Haswell, right? See a nice step. This bar that's much smaller, it's almost half the size of the Haswell bar for people only listening. That is the 3930K 6-core part. So I basically saw this in any video encoding, Premiere Pro, same thing, 3D rendering. You're getting a serious amount of performance for those 2 extra cores if your application can handle it, right? But then you get into gaming, you get into a lot of loads where Haswell is running at higher clocks, and it's going to lose. But if you do video encoding and you do 3D rendering for a living, it is worth it to pay for 6-core, because you get the performance. It saves you time, right? If you're doing a 4-hour render job and it's cut in half, or 2/3 by using a 6-core, then it's worth it. I think.
That adds up over the course of the day.
What else is there to talk about?
So isn't this going to be one of those things where this is Isn't Haswell primarily going to benefit the mobile?
Right. That is the big problem. Is Haswell is, for the most part, a CPU made, again, to cater to the mobile guys, right? For laptops, tablets especially. Intel is really deadly afraid of tablets.
Super low idle voltage.
They were saying it was 50% more laptop battery life with the Haswell. I mean, that seems seems totally ridiculous.
When it idles, it's using like a tenth of the voltage of Well,
but even so, like Intel is saying, if you're playing a high def video back on Ivy Bridge, and the exact same platform moved over to Haswell, if you're getting 6 hours in Ivy Bridge, you're going to be getting 9 hours out of Haswell. It's very significant, right? And then, of course, you get these down to these dual core jobs and these tablets. Haswell is a huge step forward for mobile parts. For desktop parts, it's like, it's the new standard. Let's not be wrong. I wouldn't rush out and go buy. I'm going to go buy a 1155 part, right? At this part, it's just like crazy. Go ahead if you're going to build a new high performance box or a new box. The future is on 1150. It is on Haswell, but it's not going to rock your world.
Yeah, I my last upgrade was from Nehalem to Ivy Bridge, and there was like, holy shit, that was an upgrade.
2 generations, right?
Yeah, so if you're back there in that region looking and you're waiting around, you skipped Ivy Bridge, you skipped Sandy Bridge, and you upgrade to Haswell, you'll see a definite improvement. I mean, it'll be pretty noticeable.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting for Chris, you run a 2500K overclock part, right?
No,
4.5
2700K.
Oh, it's a 2700K. Okay, so. Yeah, that's tough. I don't know. I think you've actually got plenty of performance. Why not just wait it out? I mean, it's not killing you, right? You're not going to like.
Yeah. I mean, I have SSD. I mean, it's all super fast, everything. So,
right.
And in gaming, it's not like processors going to make that huge of a difference.
For gaming, no, definitely not. Although, Haswell does hold a higher clock. So, like, just looking at running, we ran both processors with the stock heatsink. We both ran them at stock speeds, and a lot of stuff. The Ivy Bridge part, about 3.8. So, it was holding a 3.8 turbo. Haswell has an official turbo of, I think, 3.9. And actually, for the most part, a lot of times it was running at 4.1, holding at 4. So you get a little more out of turbo on Haswell.
Sounds like it's so similar to Ivy Bridge.
Yeah. I mean, but, everything is better underneath. You're getting a better chipset.
Yeah, but there's a big emphasis on energy and like.
Right,
basically being more efficient. So for the desktop users, you're like, don't give a shit. And then they're like, it also has better integrated graphics. Also, desktop users don't care. I mean us.
Right. No,
us,
I hear you.
care.
No, and actually the very interesting thing, and we didn't talk about this, is that there is a version of Haswell that has this massive 128 megabyte cache. It's the versions that have Iris Pro graphics, the Iris Pro 5200. We didn't actually have one of these parts. I think Anand had a part, and it looked like it was giving up maybe GeForce 650M, 640M performance. Not bad, but
you can use the eDRAM for anything. Apparently.
Right, that's the big difference. Is that this kind of sucks? Is you do not get to use. You don't get that part for the desktop. That part with the Iris Pro is only going to come in a BGA form. So it's going to be soldered into, NUCs, into all-in-ones, possibly even some laptops with that great big cache. That cache, when we were down at the press briefing, some of the developers were saying, yeah, this cache actually makes a huge difference in our application, not gaming. So non-gaming, you can get 128 megabyte massive L4 cache, which we can't get in a desktop part. Everybody who was there was like, what the, why don't we have this part? Enthusiasts want this performance. They will pay you extra money to get these versions of Haswell with a great big fat cache. And, everybody was kind of like yelling at Intel, and they actually had some Intel guy, apparently had some kind of say in these kind of things, and he took notes and told everybody they would actually be looking at possibly introducing that version of the chip in a socketed form in 1150.
Yeah, there's always I remember a few of my friends have always just been like, why can't they just add more cache? Like, they only have 12 megabytes right now. Like, why haven't they gone up to half a gig of RAM or something, or half a gig of cache? Because it's so dirt cheap right now.
Well, it's a different kind of memory. The stuff in the L1, L2, and L3, that's SRAM, whereas the stuff in the system, like your system RAM, is
DRAMs.
Yeah.
But the issue is, they design the chips around a certain size cache, and just adding cache doesn't solve everything. Yeah. I mean, we've seen chips from AMD that had huge cache, and I mean, going all the way back to the K6 3D, they had one that's 120 28. It was a really large cache at the time. It didn't make any difference. You know, it doesn't give you magic. So you still have to engineer the chip around it.
It could be one of those things that really distinguishes the 1150 socket from 1155. If they could put that CPU in there, people will be like, it's now a driver for sales.
Yeah, and I think that the big thing is Intel is not that concerned about desktop users.
That's
right?
the impression I'm getting.
They're not worried about AMD because AMD ain't doing anything at this high end, right? And honestly, $320 chip, that is a high end processor, right? So they're not worried about it. The only thing they care about is, basically mobile. And we're talking about tablets and phones and trying to keep laptops more competitive with tablets and phones.
Yeah, laptops too, because like my parents used to use desktop computer. And they're both on laptops now. They want to have something that they can bring around with them. So they don't have a desktop anymore. I'm the only one in my family who has a desktop pretty much.
Although I do want to see what happens to them, because a lot of people who go like, oh, laptops are so cheap, I'm going to get a laptop. And they use them, especially these older folks. I mean, look at this thing. You can sit in this laptop, hunched down, this little screen that's like way lower than your head for 5 hours. I honestly don't. I think a lot of those people are going to go like, wow, look at this all-in-one that I can get for $500. It has a 24-inch screen. The screen is, big. I don't have to make the fonts huge to see anything. I think there's some.
Yeah, if you're doing a lot of typing like we do here, you want a better keyboard than this sort of thing. It's just you need ideally a mechanical keyboard to get the right action around. Your fingers are just going to get tired. Wrist's going to get tired.
Off topic.
Right.
But
so, what's the final word?
So the final word is, if you're going to go out and build a new system, make sure it's an LJ 1150 on Haswell. If you're going to buy a new laptop, if it's an Ivy Bridge, unless it's some really great deal and you really don't care about battery life, I would definitely buy a Haswell unit over anything.
What about people that want to migrate their systems over now? Are there going to be 1150 coolers?
It's the same offset as 1155, 1156. They haven't changed that.
So liquid coolers and all that will be the same.
Yeah,
you can use them on everything.
It's exactly the same.
At least they didn't fuck you on that.
Right, and they had to move to a new socket because obviously you're moving the fiber inside. You've got to put more pins on there. It's not going to work with 1155.
Well, it's less pins, right? 1150.
But they've got to move stuff around for it.
So then after Haswell, we're going to have Ivy Bridge E, supposedly in Q4?
Well, we're
end of the year, I think, is the right.
And on the 1150 socket, there's going to be Broadwell, and then 2011 is going to have Ivy Bridge E.
No, there won't be Broadwell.
Right. So we're going to be Haswelling for the next couple of months, and then we're going to have Ivy Bridge E on socket 2011 or LGA 2011. Or
Right.
is it 2011? Where you want?
2011. Yeah.
Supposedly that'll be coming out in March 4th. That'll be a talk like a speed tune talk of the Ivy Bridge architecture.
It's basically Ivy Bridge moved over to Xeon, and rebadged as Ivy Bridge.
You just said there's not going to be a Broadwell.
The Broadwell's the one that got everybody all freaked out over a few months ago when people said there's not going to be any more socketed parts. Right. Broadwell will only be a BGA part, most likely. That's all the indications. Broadwell will only be BGA for laptops, all-in-ones, Nook-sized stuff.
Now, are you saying that those are rumors, or are you saying that that's your understanding? Or
those are rumors, and that is my understanding from talking to enough people. Basically, that's what got everybody freaked out, because everybody thought that was the end for enthusiasts. They thought it was the end for desktop users, because you'd go out to a store. Well, these days you'd sit in front of your laptop and you'd go to a store and it would be you want to buy one of 3 processors, right? Broadwell, whatever, red, green, or gold, and that would be it, because there's not going to be 50 different CPUs and 50 different motherboards.
So you're saying that's going to happen, or?
So I understand that will happen, but the story which I think people really kind of missed is.
Whoa! Wait, what?
What?
That's going to happen?
No, see, that's what the problem is with modern communications. It's like, okay, there's going to be a meteorite. It's going to come really close to Earth. Holy fuck, we're dead. No, I'm still talking here. Oh man, there's a meteorite. Anyway, so what's going to happen is there's going to be another part. It's going to be Broadwell. It's going to be BGA. It's going to be, it's going to be soldered only. And then eventually at some point there will be a return to sockets. as I understand it from reading and talking to peoples, that Intel's not forgotten about us, supposedly.
So just the Broadwell generation is going to be BGA.
Right, and what it really was, of course, it was like a site. It was a leaked slide in Japanese, translated by Google, and then people overreacted to it. What it is Intel is saying, you know what? We don't really need TikTok in the desktop anymore, do we? Because AMD is like nowhere to be found, right? So they don't need to kill themselves when ARM is, biting their ankles every day. So they have to concentrate on ARM. And basically, TikTok, as I understand it, is no longer TikTok.
Now, let me ask you this question, though, Gordon. And this is a serious question. You came to Intel and you were like, "What about the story?" Gordon was the journalist who actually went to the source instead of just reblogging it like everyone else did.
Right.
So Gordon gets kudos for that. But it sounds to me like Intel kind of fed you this line of like, "Oh no."
Okay, so here it is. If you go back and actually look at what everybody said this is the end of the line for socketed parts.
Now, when you say this, you mean Haswell.
Or
Broadwell. Haswell would be the very last socketed processor.
Right. I mean, yeah.
That's what everybody said. That's
Exactly.
it. The fun is over, kids. Go home. That's not true. Right?
Well, we don't know. That's what we're trying to find
From
out.
what I understand, from talking to enough people, I understand there will be other parts. And other people in the industry, they've since gotten the same information. There will be more parts.
Well, I'm not. Obviously, Gordon can't reveal who he's been talking to. I'm just saying that a lot of times when companies feed you some sort of information, it's complete bullshit.
No,
And Intel's not immune from that. That's all.
Sure. No, everybody puts a spin on it. But, but the truth is, remember, everybody said this is a fact. There will be no more socketed parts.
more or less.
Right? Not more or less. There will be no more from Intel. And that is false. That is patently false from what I understand.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like anything else. Time will tell.
Yeah.
We'll have to
Well,
see.
Time will tell. I mean,
yeah.
frankly, the world, no one knew what the world would look like today 3 years ago.
But it will
right?
continue to spin.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
3 years from now, the world could look completely different.
Yeah, a giant meteor.
If you would have
could
gone
come
back in
out
time with the Gangnam Style video and shown it to people, I mean, like, here, this is going
Right.
to be.
This would be the most popular video. No one would believe it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd be like, who's that guy?
it's pretty funny.
But yeah, does that make any sense? Clarify there. That's
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I guess my point in asking you, Gordon, is like, a lot of us have a pretty healthy dose of skepticism, and at least I do. And these PR companies go, "Here's what's let me give you this PR information." You're like, "Yeah," like usually they're never going to tell you the truth is going to hurt their company. Why the hell would they do that? There's no way they would ever do that.
yeah. But okay,
They have to give you. Sorry for the crack. They have to give you this line about no. We plan to support it in the future. We will examine our options at the time. Like they just hedge it all the way out
Sure.
to
And
infinity.
he used to work on that side too, so he's not just like talking out of his butt.
Yeah.
Well, he used to talk out of his butt.
I
Is that
know.
what you're saying?
I still do it here. I still do it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, sure. No one knows what the future is going to look like in 3 years, right?
I've talked to you about this before. It's like desktops are like modular. You can take out a processor, you can take out a video card, everything like that, PSU.
Right.
And what are you going to do if you have this system which has a motherboard and a CPU soldered together? You're just going to chuck that out and you have to buy a new one for like $400, $500? That's like stupid.
It's theoretically possible that like Gordon said, with AMD not really competing in the enthusiast performance market with the Core i7s, that Intel is just going to go, why are we competing again? And there's also rumors too that they might even be replacing their Xeons with like Atoms, like microserver architecture.
No, they are offering parts. There's going to be an Atom server part.
Right.
I thought we even talked about it. There's going to be an 8-core Atom for microservers.
Right.
Right. That doesn't mean
So-
they're replacing Xeons, because honestly, there are people who still need Xeon performance.
So you guys are dismissing the high end, if you want to call it that, the AMD's FX line, the 8350 and the.
No,
those-
we're just saying. I mean, I'm not really saying this because I'm not. I mean, I did say that, but I'm just saying. I'm just repeating Gordon's words. They are not competing with Intel and Intel's Core i7 processors, and
Yeah.
AMD's not competing. With them.
We can come on. Let's not kid ourselves. If FX 8350 competed with a 3960X or 3970X part,
Well, how could I? I mean, it costs like a fifth of the price.
well, if
No,
it had the
it's-
same performance, they could charge the same price, right?
Yeah, it was
Yeah, that's
$220. I mean, they could have dropped in a 16-core Opteron and tried to throw it
But
against an i7.
How large is the market for enthusiast 2011 compared to?
Well, not 20. I'm not saying 2011. They could have
know.
tried to compete, with their i7.
It's exactly the same as AMD not competing with GTX Titan, or it's similar. Where they're kind of conceding the really, really, really high end and saying, you guys,
Right.
you guys go ahead and do what you want.
Yeah.
Couldn't they have done like a 10-core and try to throw that against the
from
i7 or
AMD's
something?
perspective is like, why do we care about this super high end where it's it's a small market.
The arms
it's very
race.
vocal.
Well, plus too, this all goes back to these things where
Sorry,
You
my
know-
Subway sandwich is coming back out.
what I mean, like the biggest graphics share, the company with the biggest graphics share, the biggest market share in the graphics industry is Intel.
Right.
Right. So everyone's always, what gets a lot of headlines are these Titans and these kind of massive shootouts.
They're sexy.
But the actual market is way down, way down there. Integrated graphics and shit
Sure.
like that.
It's all in this $150, $100 GPUs. And that's actually one of the problems that people thought NVIDIA had, which is Intel keeps getting better. They've been a joke for a long time, but they keep getting better and better and better. At some point, how can really NVIDIA survive on this very small market of high-end GPUs?
And Intel's IGP is also scaling faster than the discrete cards are in terms of, I don't know if they'll ever close the gap, but the benchmarks that I've seen, the tests that I've seen, subjective experiments with Haswell just versus Ivy Bridge, I was getting about twice the performance.
Right.
Yeah, but it's like an 8800 GT just blows the shit out of any of those integrated graphics. It's like, that's
Right.
8800 GT. That's so old.
The thing
Right.
the thing is though, I was testing Portal 2 at 1080p with all the effects maxed out except for anti-aliasing, and
It was playable almost.
yeah,
Almost.
I was getting about 45 frames per second, 40 to 50. So I don't know if you consider that playable, but it felt perfectly fine.
But I mean, my friend has a 9800 GT, and like that plays. He can play Diablo 3. He can play all these games. I mean, he doesn't play at like 1080p, but he plays at 720p.
Right.
And like he's fine. So I mean, if you're having a 9800 or 8800 GT and you don't have everything like turned up, I was talking to Gordon about this. You're fine. I mean, if you want to turn everything up, then you need to have like a higher end video card. So.
Right. But I mean, let's also be fair to NVIDIA. They do have this problem down to that kind of low end, kind of like entry level, PC with Intel, but they've moved on to Tegra 3, Tegra 4. I don't even know what they're up to. They pretty much have I think they've laid out a path for where they really don't need to depend only on selling PC graphics anymore. I don't know if it's paying off yet, but you definitely can see that they were in the right spot to be into tablets.
Yeah, we'll see if it works out for them because they've diversified before. They did motherboard chipsets with the N-Force,
Right.
many years back.
Which actually they were very successful at until they got,
And the integrated
Hot
sound on
box.
those boards was actually really good. The integrated sound on those N-Force boards was actually really good.
So NVIDIA ran a interview with their mobile chief and asked them since Haswell supposedly has double the performance of. Since Haswell's integrated graphics has supposedly double the performance of Ivy Bridge, will that now allow you to play games at high resolution, et cetera, on a notebook? Now, you're probably not going to be surprised by NVIDIA's response because this is NVIDIA. So what are they going to say? Like, yeah, I guess, man.
Oh, I know what they said.
Yes, we can see defeat.
Shit.
Stock price.
Shit.
Well, I have this. Right. Do I have this?
Quote, unquote, Haswell falls far short of GeForce.
Well, what
Yeah.
what sort of GeForce though?
He says, we expect well over half of today's games won't play at standard resolutions on Haswell, which is nothing new. 2 generations ago, same thing happened to Sandy Bridge as well as Ivy Bridge. Any serious gamer will tell you the integrated graphics are far from adequate for delivering a reasonable, let alone good experience, and Haswell won't change that.
Yeah, but what's a 740 or
Portal-
640M gonna do? It's not. Is it?
Portal 2 was actually fine, like I said, and also Metro 2033, if you turn everything down, it was still pretty playable. I don't know if it was at the native res or if it was like one notch down from that, but it's still, I think it's
But that's
pretty,
the desktop part, right?
This was the 4770K,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, with the HD 4600 in it.
I think people are. Well, I mean, just me. I'm just super interested in like what the laptop side of it's going to be. Are they really just going to kill the 640M and 650M?
From the
like,
benchmarks I've seen, it's about
Pretty close.
Yeah.
He says, well, so they actually asked him about that. They says Intel says GT3, which is the Haswell integrated.
GT3 and GT3E.
GT3E will be as fast as GeForce GT650M. That sounds pretty competitive. He says this is Nvidia's marketing guy. Keep that in mind. Their comparison is misleading on a number of fronts. First, they use synthetic benchmarks when that are optimized to compare performance. We would actually use games instead of synthetics. And blah, blah, blah. Third, and perhaps more fundamentally, the GT3E product exists in the top tier of their CPU family. CPUs such as the i7-4880QM have an average notebook price of nearly $3,000, according to market research firm JFK. Notebook buyers can get much better performance at a significantly lower cost by selecting a GeForce notebook. So he's just saying it's unfair.
And the GT3 is the Iris, and the GT3E is the Iris Pro. Intel's doing this new thing with their branding the higher end IGPs this time.
Yeah, the E has the embedded DRAM.
Yeah.
It's
Go
ahead.
Let me just read. There's a couple things that are interesting here from this Nvidia interview. Number one is he says that for Haswell, Nvidia has 95% of the design wins for Haswell will be Nvidia GPUs. That's what Nvidia said.
I've come to dislike that phrase.
Design win?
Yeah, design wins.
Yeah, what does he mean?
Well, it means that
People using it.
Yeah, it means when Dell says, okay, we have our CPU selected for our next generation notebook, now we need to select a mobile card, a hard drive, an SSD, a blah, 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 and GPU. And one of those cards is GPU. So whoever they select, whether it's Dell, whether it's Broadcom or Kingston or Toshiba, blah, blah, whoever that firm is who gets that contract, who gets to make all those cards, they make a lot of money off of it, and then that helps them. So it becomes a sort of partnership, right? So when these new things come out, AMD and then Nvidia are competing for these design wins.
They're competing. So design wins like in high-end laptops, right?
Any laptop. It'd be like.
I just don't like seeing the phrase being used to refer to a part's own arbitrary perceived subjective improvements. Like we improved this and that and the other thing in our product, and we've determined that we've made 32 design wins.
All right, the NVIDIA guy says he's talking about how it's different. The U.S. is different than the rest of the countries in the world. He says among major markets, the U.S. has the lowest percentage of notebooks sold with GPUs.
True.
You don't give a
and
shit
Europe.
about graphics here.
Americans don't care about integrated or discrete graphics. But
if you look at the other markets, China, Germany, and Russia, you see a dramatically higher percentage of notebooks with GPUs than in the U.S. This trend has been very consistent over the past several years.
Did they say why?
What the fuck? What happened to American pride?
Well, because I think there's
way
more
off
people
topic.
over there who think that I need a discrete GPU. Like you need to have that video card to play your games, and there's a lot of people who don't even know what a GPU is or does here.
Speaking of GPUs, do you want to move on?
Well, we have one more thing to talk about, and we should just be fair because the NDA lifts, tomorrow?
Well, by the time you read this, it will have already happened.
All right, so Richland, one thing we forgot to talk about is
yeah.
the new A10 6800K part, right? Mm-hmm. Which is AMD's latest APU, which we can talk about since we probably will not even get this anywhere till after.
What's an APU, real quick?
It is basically what ATI calls a CPU. Combined with a GPU, so they're meshed far more closely. And so we did some quick benchmarks, purely from the graphics part. We didn't really look at this from the CPU side because, frankly, a 4770K, 3770K is going to crush a Richland part because you're looking at $300 CPU versus a $142 CPU. So.
However,
but you flip it, you look at it graphics, you're looking at Richland generally with having a pretty serious advantage over both HD 4600 and HD 4000 graphics. So I'll give you an example. We're looking at 3D Mark CloudGate. Actually, the Richland does terrible there because there's a lot more physics. That's just a reminder that physics and CPUs it does kind of drag it down. Well, I'll look at something where it's
with the actual game benchmarks.
Okay, so 3D Mark 11 performance. So for 3D Mark performance graphics, Ivy Bridge is 685, Haswell is 1205, and Richland A10 6800K is 1414. And then in actual games, just sort of gaming engines, I ran just the newer Resident Evil 6 benchmark, which I hate because it loops. 13 by 7 resolution. Ivy Bridge, 1100, Haswell, 2100, and Richland, 2900.
Yeah.
Hitman Absolution, Also, again, fairly low res. Ivory Bridge 26, Hitman 33, and Richland 36. And actually, here's a good one. This is Dirt 3, which Intel loves because, driving games, you really don't need terribly high frame rates. At 19 by 10, because I want to see how playable they were. Dirt 3 on an Ivory Bridge is 35 frames a second. Richland is 43. And Richland is 44. So it's not bad, honestly, for $142 APU.
Yeah, it costs about $100 less than the i5, the Haswell i5, and it produces some pretty respectable performance. It tends to
graphics, yes.
Yeah, it does it at least as good, if not better, than the i5 or the i7, the HD 4600 basically. So it has an itch.
Yeah, for the money, it's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to build like a $400 or a $500 box, and
Yeah,
you
it'd be a
can't,
good part for that.
and you want to play some games, and you're on that super strict budget, I mean, it's perfect.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Speaking of graphics,
All right. So that about covers Haswell. Make sure if you haven't checked it out yet, go to our website. Gordon has a huge article up. It's also going to be in our August issue, which will be on the it'll be one of the features in our August issue, which will be coming out in probably end of June, early July, I think. Be sure and check that out. All right, so this week we had so last time we recorded this podcast, we had a launch of the GTX 780. Now that was pretty awesome. GK110 Titan-based, $650. Pretty nice card. Really close to a Titan for, it's $350 cheap. Less money. It's, I always talk about this in the office that if you were to graph performance and price for GPUs, they would just be they would be completely even all the way across the board. You can almost never can you get more performance for less money. Almost never. Like if you see a 7850 and it costs $150, then you have a 660 which costs $175. That 660 will be 5 frames a second faster. It's almost always true.
Right.
Almost always. GTX 780 is the one. That's the first card I've seen that breaks that rule.
wait, so how much is it?
$650. It's really close to, and it's really close to a Titan.
Well, but
really
there is
close.
no $650 video card, though, right?
Well,
No, but I'm talking about if you were, but it's almost the same cost. How
Almost the same performance.
almost the same performance.
I
It's
put
really really close.
I put a 780 in a build, and I threw like 150 megahertz core overclock on it, and it was within spitting distance of a Titan.
Yeah, you're talking anyways. So that's really good. So anyways, along with that launch came a new launch as well for the other card around 400. This is at the $400 mark, the GTX 770. Now this is a card that is pretty good, but basically what it is they basically took the GTX 680 core, the GK104, and they just overclocked it.
Those auto-loading ads.
Chris is watching porn.
Minding his own business.
Chris is getting
I'm on
bored.
Newegg.
I'm
I'm
just,
on
uh,
Newegg.
Chris is getting bored with GPU talk. Anyway,
I'm
so
looking
porn
at
on
the
Newegg
Newegg.
now,
I'm
really.
looking at the Newegg prices for video cards and just.
all right, so the GTX 780 launched as the first 700 series card from Nvidia. It uses the GK110, massive GPU, Titan GPU, and it's definitely really, really fast for a single GPU. It's right there next to the Titan, so if you have $650, get it.
Yeah, it uses half the RAM though. Just
Yeah.
be advised, 3 instead of 6.
3 instead of 6. Doesn't have the compute performance. So that's sort of, the high end is kind of Nvidia's right now. They've got the Titan, they got the 780, whatever. So back on the real world, they now launched the GTX 770. So this is a $400 GPU. It basically is the GTX 680 from last year, slightly overclocked with faster memory for $100 cheaper. That card launched at $500 last year.
They also redid the circuit board, I think, a little bit for better temperatures.
Well, this has
better
GPU.
voltage.
This has GPU Boost 2.0 on it. You can
Yeah.
has adaptive fan controller, so the fans spin up really, really slow. They spin down really slow, so you don't really notice the fans changing speeds at all. You can also set the temperature control in the fan, which we use here in the office. It's a really, really cool feature. It's got some good stuff to it, but it's like I think it's kind of a tough sell just because it's It's
might be what
GTX 680, basically.
Might be why they priced it at $400. I was surprised they went that low.
That's a good price.
I mean, people were pissed. Yeah, people were pissed because they were just like, I've already seen this card. It's called GTX 680. And it's like, yeah, you have, but it's $100 cheaper now. That's a pretty damn good deal.
And they're probably also going to be coming out with 4 gigabyte versions.
Yeah, so with the GTX 770, so let me just give you some specs real quick. So the GTX 770 is exactly the same specs as the GTX 680. About 1536 CUDA cores, 128 texture units. I mean, everything down the line is exactly the same. Everything.
It's like GTX 680 2.0.
Right. The only different memory interface, 256 bits. This is a 228 nanometer card, 3.5 billion transistors. All those specs, the actual GPU, everything about the card, exactly the same. Nothing has changed. What's changed is the clock speed. So the GTX 680 was clocked at 1006. That's how I pronounce these things. The 770 is 1046. So it's 40 megahertz overclocked, and the boost clock is another like 30 megahertz. But the memory has actually gone up to 7 gigahertz. So that's a little extra bump. And it turns out that these cards, these GTX 770s, I was not quite aware of this when this launch happened last week. Now that we had a week to sort of look at the market, what's going to happen with these cards is these cards are going to be ridiculously overclocked by aftermarket. So it's gonna be really hard for you to come across. And so actually, let me put this out there too: is that when we saw the card from Nvidia, it came with a Titan cooler on it.
Yeah.
That was all the artwork we had was Titan cooler. That was what's called the stock card. Now that the card's launched, we cannot find one of those cards at retail. I cannot find one.
I mean,
Are they sold out?
You can find them, but they're
I
just...
cannot find one with a Titan cooler on it anywhere.
No, they have them with a Titan. It's not the exact Titan cooler, but it's like they have... They're
I'm talking
similar.
about the Titan cooler.
Oh, silver.
Are you saying like they're sold out, or you think they've been removed?
Not available. Not offered and not available.
I mean, this one looks like Titan cooler. I mean, it's black.
That's not the Titan. That's not the Titan cooler. That's a black
That
plastic
looks
piece
like
of shit.
that looks like a 680 cooler.
Chris is showing-
Whoa. I wouldn't be that mean to it.
Chris is showing. Okay, that's sorry. That's a standard.
This is what I'm saying
You could be
looks like
mean
a
too,
Titan
but-
cooler.
That's okay. But here's the deal. When they showed us the card, when we and the images we used for our launch, it was a Titan cooler that aluminum alloy, blah blah blah. Yeah. Those cards, I have not been able to find one of those. Anyways, so it appears like 770 in stock trim will not exist.
We've seen the same thing with Radeons, with the stock 7850 and the stock 7950. You can't find those anywhere except for like eBay nowadays.
Well, that's because everybody wants to overclock the hell out of them.
Right. So far we've seen Asus has a DirectCU 2 card that's like there's the overclocked. It's it's not the Matrix, but it's a top, so it's not super crazy.
And it's 2 slots, whereas their 680 is 3 slots.
680 was 3 slots. It was huge. It was absolutely
super heavy,
massive. So Asus has that card. MSI has a Lightning card, which is going to be. Which is here. It's fucking huge. It's massively big. It's $459 though, so it's $59 over retail.
It's also about 11.5 inches long.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
overclocked it.
you want a good like 12 inches of space for an MSI Lightning GTX 770.
Yeah. So the MSI card. There's the Gigabyte has a card with the WindForce has 3 fans on it. We have that card here too. All these cards are coming in that are going to be totally quiet, highly overclocked. Super fast, and they're actually good enough to play as an example like Crysis 3 or Far Cry 3 at 2560 at 30 frames a second. Almost all of them. They're
So if
really,
you had
really good.
a 580, or actually let's say you had a 680, you wouldn't upgrade for
No.
770 or
No.
780, right?
No way.
No, it just doesn't
Well,
make sense.
780, right?
If you had a
680
if you went from
780.
from a 680.
if you went from a 580 to a 780, yeah, that would be
That's
big,
a huge jump.
That would be a huge
No.
jump.
You're
680.
almost going to a Titan.
Everyone who
We're
has
talking
a,
about
No,
680.
680 to 780 you would do it, but you wouldn't do it to a
Well,
770.
if you're playing
Wait, what?
if you're playing at 1080p, then I'm going from a 680 to 780. It might not make that much of a difference
You
because
would-
your frame rate's already pretty high with the 680.
You really think you would upgrade from a 680 to a 780?
no one said that, Gordon. What are you talking about?
He just
no,
said
I'm
that.
saying. No, if you have a 680, you would go to a 780.
No, you wouldn't.
That's what I just
Why?
said.
You would,
right?
but you would
No.
buy a second. Why would you pay $600? You would just buy a second GPU and get it
I
twice.
mean, you want a single GPU, but it's like a Titan basically. If you could overclock it to get it to be a Titan, it's single GPU. It's gonna be scale better.
a 680. Yeah, but there's no way. It's just so to answer your question, my recommendation is if you have a 680, you would not upgrade to a 780. That'd be a waste of money. You would just buy a second 680, run SLI, you're good to go.
Right.
If,
Okay.
if you even need that much performance.
Right, and I think I haven't looked to see what the 680 prices are. Maybe someone can check it out.
Yeah,
I was
they're
waiting-
around 400. They're around $420. Around 410. You can get a gigabyte overclocked 680 for 420.
Microphone.
Okay, you can get you can get an overclocked 680 from Gigabyte for $420.
Yeah, so that's what I would do. So this is going to be the card that's going to be overclocked like crazy from everyone. MSI is coming out with everyone is overclocking the shit out of this card. They're going to have some really, really cool coolers on it. It's going to be so it's at $400. And my review, JC, said that it's as fast as the 680, but there's no clear winner here. It's not quite as it's between the 680, the 7970 gigahertz, and this card. They're all neck and neck, all of them.
That's a tough one. So definitely a new build, major upgrade only. Like if you had a 560 Ti, you're looking for something.
Yeah, I mean this is I remember when the 680s came out, everyone rushed to get them, and you couldn't get one, and they were sold out. And this is the same card for $400. It's a pretty damn good deal. But this basically retires the 670. It retires the 680s now has been retired. So you're gonna if you want one, you should get one. They're not gonna be around forever.
Yeah, if you want to do SLI, then now's the time.
Yep. And then so now we sit back and wait for AMD to respond. We haven't heard anything. Even if we did, we probably couldn't talk about it. But we haven't heard anything. And Nvidia's silent for now. They gave us these two cards, 780, 770, and they said this is our 7 series. So we're waiting to see if they're gonna come back. I mean, in all honesty, we'll probably see an 8970 from AMD very, very soon.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah, they don't like having Nvidia just leading by themselves in the headlines like this. They do not like that at all.
What if it's just a new bundle?
No, their bundles are pretty damn good.
They are hella good.
20 game bundle.
They're pretty good.
20 game bundle.
Chris was telling me before the show that you could get a 7850 now for
$155 and then $20 mail-in rebate.
What's
$135 for that card, plus you get Far Cry Blood Dragon, Tomb Raider, and then what other game?
Sorry, it's $140. You get
watch the microphone.
You get Far Cry 3, Blood Dragon, BioShock Infinite, Tomb Raider.
Yeah. So
wait, you getting a what card?
7850.
7850 for $150. You're getting $300 in games. They throw in a free FX 8350 and a motherboard and 8 gigs of RAM. I'm making that up. It's just like, wow, it just seems like, when does it stop? It just keeps getting better. It'd
what's interesting is that the only 7990 AMD card I've seen, the reference that they put out a few months ago, I haven't seen anybody else, any of the vendors redo that like they have the other cards. I've only seen the AMD reference 7990.
Oh, you mean aftermarket coolers?
Lately. I mean, we saw the Power Color, the Double 13, and we saw the Aries 2, but now at the point at which AMD came out with their own reference 7990, I haven't seen any other vendors coming out with their version of that card. Have you?
No.
Yeah, they're all stock clocked on Newegg right now. They're all same reference coolers.
Okay, yeah, those are all identical.
Yeah, they're all the same card. Pretty much.
All right, so that's GTX 770. The 780 is a more exciting launch just because it's a new GPU, something we haven't seen before. Kind of gives you performance that wasn't possible. I mean, it's basically a Titan for $650. Close. Doesn't do the compute performance, but for gaming, it is right there. I mean, very, very close. And anyways, so 780 is really, really cool. 770, yeah, it's still good, but since it's offering performance we've already seen from other cards, it's not quite as exciting from a hardware point of view. But good card, and it looks like it runs really quiet. I mean, for a card that's gonna be super overclocked, it runs quiet. Does give off some heat.
Yeah.
So,
they're pretty fast. Remember, for the magazine we just finished, I reviewed 2 boxes. One of them was a main gear box with 3 780. 3 Titans in it, though. I'd be interested to see 3 780s.
Titans? You say that was fast, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty fast.
It's good to know.
Hey, man, 3 Titans faster than 2 690s.
For what it's worth, I'm reviewing I have 2 770s at my desk right now in SLI, and it's running everything at 60 FPS. Far Cry 3 with 4XAA, 2560 by 1600. Crysis 3, it's about 45 frames a second. I mean, it's basically Crysis 3 and Far Cry 3 are the hardest things we have, and it's 60 frames a second. It's really
Crysis 3 seems to prefer SMAA over MSAA as far as
we should run that on that 3 Titan box.
All right. Well, let's quickly jump over to Tom for our last topic. And then we have to just do this. Let's just do this in a couple of minutes if we can.
Yeah, this isn't nearly as exciting, but unless you're looking for a large monitor, Asus announced that it's coming out with the what's it called? Where's the model name? Well, a 31-inch 4K monitor, the PQ321, 31.5-inch screen, and the resolution is 3840 by 2160. Ultra HD is the official terminology. Let's see, 140 pixels per inch for those of you who've been using cell phones lately, you've probably been hearing a lot about pixels per inch. So it's relatively low. But
What is a? I mean, what's some reference for that?
Well, I think my phone, this LG Optimus G, that has like twice the pixels per inch. Or maybe it's like 250, 275, something like that.
So 140 sounds really shitty.
Yeah, but that's just marketing bullshit. Because I mean, you're not
pixels
going
per inch. Come on.
Yeah, because you're going to be looking at your 35-inch 4K panel from 2 inches away, right? I mean, what the hell?
It's definitely you should be having this thing set back from your face because it's otherwise probably going to give you like a 2nd-degree burn.
How much? Wait, do we know how much? So.
The prices I've been seeing, I don't see it in this particular article, but the prices I've been seeing around $5,000.
So now, what we're basically seeing here is that right now we've gone to 2560 by 1600 as being this sort of, this is the highest we can go right now for desktop resolution, right?
Yeah. And
so the next generation apparently is going to be 3840 by 20.
There's no set standard. Some of them are a little over 4.
So the theory is that the next. So now we're going to be moving beyond 30-inch panels into the 4K realm, and that'll be just awesome.
And the Asus apparently also has a 40-inch model, but that's not listed in this article. But this be 31.5 and then a 40-inch screen, same 4K resolution.
See, I wouldn't mind keeping 30 inches, but going just higher resolution than 2560.
I think it's way too much.
Well, also, what video cards are going to use to play in 4K? You're
Well,
going
now
to
you're
need
going to
like 4
need
Titans.
Yeah, now you're going to start needing
content creation.
Well, it's sort of a trade-off because at 4K, you might not need anti-aliasing anymore.
Yeah,
everybody says that.
That's going to be a stupid expense. I mean, those things. The thing about technology that's awesome is that one thing that's been around for a while. Like you can probably get those 30-inch. All right, you can get a 30-inch Dell IPS for like probably $1,000 right now, right?
Well, if you want to get a 27-inch like off-brand 2560 monitor, it's $500.
Right.
We're talking about
2560 by 1440 version of the Dell is
2560,
about $700. That's a pretty damn good deal.
Yeah.
But this 4K Dell is going to be like $3,000. I mean, it's going to be ridiculously expensive.
I have actually seen 4K panels, and they are just stunning.
Really?
Right. So, the one I saw at IDF was an ISO, I think, and it was like a 35-inch. So it was about 4K res, and you're talking a full D800 image displayed on the screen. Like
you also need very
crazy.
Very high quality source material. Like even a Blu-ray starts looking not so hot.
Well, I don't think frankly, I think people have got the whole idea. Everything's crazy. You're not going to watch Blu-ray on this. You're not going to play games on it.
What are you going to use it for?
It's for calling shitloads of videos on your screen, shitloads of windows, all these different windows.
It's kind of like if you have one of those 100-inch. I heard on Kevin Smith's podcast, he said he has a 110-inch whatever plasma, and he uses it to watch like 4 movies at once.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of crazy.
He doesn't watch one movie.
Well, that's like his professional thing. Like he can actually do that and have a need for it. It seems like if you're gonna pay $5,000 for a 4K panel, it would make more sense to have two 2560s and pay like 1/3 of the cost.
Yeah, but sometimes it's nice just to have all the pixels on one window. Doing content creation, it's pretty nice. Doing photo editing with that kind of resolution, that whole multi-panel thing. Yeah, it's okay, but man, that bezel, it's pretty annoying.
I hate that bezel. I would never want to do. I've gone to a 27-inch LCD at home. I might get a 30 at some point, hopefully, and I will never go back to
30. You need that's why I'm saying 40.
30 is
really
like a TV.
40.
40. 32. Like if you have like 32, that's like shit.
No, it's not because it's a pixel density. TVs are made to be watched from 15 feet away. Monitors would be made to be used from 2 feet away.
Wait, so when can we expect to see this Asus monitor?
I don't think there was an actual release date. My phone screen is just turned off, so now I gotta open it up again.
All right, well,
I'll figure it out.
All right, well, while Chris looks that up, I'm going to jump onto the reader email section of the podcast here. We have a couple of emails. This is our MaximumPCPodcast@gmail.com inbox. We haven't looked at it in a while. All right, here we go. Chris Carr writes in and says, this email is for the sound person. Tell Helen Keller behind the soundboard to take an hour every day and balance the volumes of everybody's voice in the room while recording. So we've done that for you today, Chris, and we know that we've basically turned up the gain in a lot of our mics. That's why you hear that popping noise sometimes. So we're sorry about that popping noise. It's kind of like a trade-off for making the mics more sensitive. We're working on that, and
there's actually nobody behind the soundboard.
And then he writes, "Yeah, there's no one here.
There's
just
no
us.
one here.
There's people saying, tell your producer. There is no producer." So, anyways, he says, sarcasm and jokes aside, you guys have an awesome podcast. Every time you guys rag on Apple, the guys I work with fall in love with you a little more. Thank you, Chris Carr. We'll do our best. I'm sure Gordon won't stop doing that. All right. Let's see here. Okay, this is from a gentleman named Andy. Andy writes, "Hello, I'm writing in response to a quote I was listening to in the 2012 Rants podcast, namely that Nathan was pointing out that kids these days don't write the word Y-O-U, they write the letter U. I'm in 7th grade. I know many people who do try to use proper grammar and spelling, even though many people do write in the way that Nathan describes. Also, I'm writing on a PC and sending a long reply, so Nathan was wrong with his remarks about being the last generation to think of emails being sent from a PC. I'm writing this on a PC that I built for myself. Signed, Andy in 7th grade." How you feel now, Chris? After talking like that?
Now you feel old?
No, I'm saying he's corrupting people's minds with his bad word. That's all I'm saying.
Oh.
Andy, you're awesome, dude. Building a PC in 7th grade, that's pretty good. I didn't start until 8th grade. How about you?
I don't remember. Actually, the first one I bought from a friend we built, so that was before you guys were probably born.
For what it's worth, my mom uses those words too when she texts me. Like she could type the word, she'll save one letter by using some weird internet abbreviation. It's super weird.
LOL.
Not LOL. It's like I should look it up.
I purposely type "I will be right back."
The release date for that monitor, it says end of June in North America. But there's apparently no official price. So I don't actually know where I got the $5,000 number from. I could be completely wrong. But
Just making it up?
I expect it to cost a few $1,000s.
No, actually, I heard it's going to be bundled with that new 7950 card.
Yeah.
And Crysis 5 and Battlefield 5.
Battlefield 5? No, Battlefield 4. Come on.
No, 5.
5. Oh, shit.
You get everything.
And with the open beta.
You get 2 generations of games that aren't even out yet.
Beta access to Battlefield 6.
I just like how, it's just awesome. Those AMD bundles. It's like, man, whoa. How much more can you give me?
All right, so
maybe they can start giving away better drivers too.
Oh, that's not nice.
Man.
But somewhat
Tom's
true.
going hard, man. Tom's going hard.
I'm sure they're very nice drivers.
Cliff Jones writes in saying, "Love the show, guys. Ignore the overly sensitive titty babies who can't withstand a few cuss words." That's funny.
See,
Titty babies.
He says he likes the relaxed feel of the show for every one person who pees their pants over a word they deem bad. There are 100 of us who love the natural amongst friends style of the show. Keep up the good work. Fucking sincerely, Cliff Jones. It's hardcore.
Yeah.
It's either everything.
It's either you're like, no.
All right,
no swearing.
Adam Baldwin writes in from Twitter, says, "I'm probably too late, but what's the final verdict on Haswell?" We answered it earlier. He asked this though: did they overclock as awesome as rumors suggested?
I would say no. Honestly, I've talked to. I don't want to rat anybody out, but there's been enough information that it is kind of hit or miss. I mean, honestly, and talking to some PC builders, so nobody can be fingered of that.
Don't do any fingering.
Sandy Bridge, remember, everybody got those Sandy Bridge boxes up to 5.2, even sort of the harder push. We're talking every day. We're not talking about liquid nitrogen.
They were getting up over 5 gigahertz on air?
Sandy Bridge, no.
Sounds like the launch PCs were like hot items, basically.
Well, no, let's just say, so the Sandy Bridge, 5? Everybody expected to get 5. You got a really good part, up 5 range, everyday use, stable. Ivory Bridge was like, 4.6 maybe, if you were lucky. Haswell is probably about the same, 4.6 maybe. So it doesn't really get you that much more. In fact, some people are probably getting worse performance as far as everyday use overclocking.
We might figure out some tweaks because now with the integrated voltage regulator, that's going to change all your half your BIOS settings for CPU performance. So
Dakota Ryan Lambert says, "Should I stick with my i5 3570K at 4 gigahertz or go with Haswell?" Obviously, that would be stick with your GPU.
Yeah, I would stick with the 3570. It's just
I would stick with both Ivy Bridge and Sandy Bridge unless it has a specific extension that you need, like AVX2 or FMA 1 or 2
or you could go with 3770K if you really need the threads.
Yeah.
All right, John Root Kai. Hopefully I didn't say that wrong. Says, "I enjoy the podcast. The current crew is great, blah, blah, blah. In the last podcast, none of you seemed to support larger screens for gaming. You mentioned the speed and the fact that the GTX 670 couldn't keep up with a 2560 by 1440 or a 2560 by 1600 screen. I game on a 30-inch mono-price screen, 2560 by 1600 with a 2 gig GTX 650 Ti boost video card. For games that are not ridiculously..." Chris is shaking his head, that's why I'm laughing. I'm not laughing at you, John. I game on it. Chris is laughing at you. I game on a 30-inch monoprice screen. Okay. For games that are not ridiculously graphic intensive, this is fine. For games that are graphic intensive, you can always run them in a window, which I like to do anyways to respond to work and family messages. I do understand the pixel refresh rates can suffer, but really difference are in a few. Blah blah blah. Anyways, then there's the immersion factor of larger screens. Anyway, that's weird. I've never heard of someone doing that before.
Playing in a window?
Yeah.
I think
using
personally
a huge screen, then using like a mid-range GPU, and then playing in a window like that.
that's an
See,
interesting
if they're using
take.
multiple
I've never-
monitors, then they wouldn't have to deal with that issue.
Well, I mean, if he wants to use Photoshop, I guess, you don't have the
No,
the
what I
photos
don't
at
like?
full res.
Yeah,
Or,
it's
well,
nice-
not full res,
It's
but
nice
like
to have
high
the
res.
image. The image takes up the full frame, then you have all your tools on the other
Here's a
screen.
problem with people like that. Now, I'm not saying you do this, man, but I can tell this is the kind of guy.
Oh,
You're like, okay,
Nothing personal, you
here's
just have
what
a
we're going
problem.
to do. You're going to go left. I'm going to go right. I'm going to hit him with the frags. Then you're going to go in through the door. Okay, go! Wait, where is he? He's AFK. What the fuck? Because it's like, oh, I got to work now. In that little window, you're in that little window on his screen. Like, well, where's the rest of the platoon? No, he just left the whole squad there.
How can you
That's
even?
that guy.
I
You
guess
had
you
to take
could-
out the garbage.
Yeah, you'd have to tab out of the window to answer a message or whatever. So yeah, you're going to be in and out of the game all the time.
Yeah, so it's the kind of guy that's like AFK guy. He's stuck
What's AFK mean?
away
from
from the keyboard.
keyboard.
Away from keyboard. All right.
Holy,
You're so like last month.
yeah.
Sorry.
I'm
Yeah,
just
get
saying,
with
like,
the
okay.
I talk in English.
All
I'll
right,
use
we're in the
letter
chopper.
U.
Whoa, hey,
WTF.
how come the chopper is just going straight into the mountain now? Yes, because he had to go stop and do something in some other window in Photoshop.
Well, in his defense, half the helicopter drivers in BF3 are like that.
That was always funny though in BF3 seeing all the guys at the spawn point just standing there doing nothing. That was pretty funny.
Well, it's because you
you got to run halfway across the map.
try to make a run for the vehicle, and whoever gets there first just flies away before anybody can go.
you
Anyways,
all
should
right.
try that, though. I really
Moving
would like to
on.
try this, see if that's possible.
It's time to move on to our editor picks. So let's get started with Chris. Go for it.
Let's let's get started with Tom.
Let's get started with Tom.
Yeah,
Chris,
just
you don't have. Well, you didn't
go
bring a
around the
pick.
circle.
You didn't bring a pick.
I'm trying to find one right now.
All right, go ahead, Tom.
My pick is the Five Guys app. I think it's for iOS, and it's definitely for Android. I know that because it's on my phone right now. If you're a fat, stupid American like me and you like eating cheeseburgers a lot, this app is for you. And it also helps to be actually within 10 miles of a Five Guys burger and fries restaurant. And what this app does is it as soon as you start it up, it'll start geolocating you, so it can find whichever Five Guys is closest to you, and it'll give you the distance, and you can tap on each Five Guys, and it'll give you map directions. It'll hook into Google Maps, and you can navigate over there. But the important thing is that you can use the app to order ahead of time, because Five Guys, these are pretty popular restaurants, at least in the Northern California area. And you can go in there, you can wait for like 10-15 minutes to get your food, or you can order with the app and basically walk in and walk out. It's pretty handy.
All right, Gordon, what do you got?
I'm going to actually pick the Macintosh iMac, which is my pick of the month because they are fantastic machines
Oh, you.
that never break down.
You.
I mean, they're just so reliable that they never, ever just infinitely reboot or go to black while you're on production and just stop working.
Are you feeling okay? You need to lie down?
They
All
never
right.
do that.
Chris?
Oh, okay, I got it. Okay, my pick is, if you have an Nvidia card, Gigabyte Guru overclocking tool. It's pretty good at adjusting you can adjust your voltage, fan speed, everything like that from this overclocking tool. I mean, I use it. And yeah, it's pretty simple. You can change all the profiles on it too. So if you want to have, I think up to 5 or 6 different profiles for your video card, you can put it on there for different voltage and different clock speed. So yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people actually ignore those tools. They're pretty damn good, man. MSI Afterburner is awesome. The Precision X from EVGA is really, really good. The GPU Tweak from ASUS also really good. I mean, people ignore that stuff to their own peril.
Is that your pick?
No, so my pick, I've got a couple different ones here. So my first pick is a Firefox add-on I've been using called Self-Destructing Cookies. Basically, when you close a tab, it'll delete the cookies for that site. So you still have to use cookies. If you've ever tried to surf without using cookies, it's impossible. It's impossible. There's also an extension called Ghostery if you want to see which cookies are being used. It's appalling how many cookies you're being served and using all the time everywhere you go. It happens all the time. You can go to YouTube and log out of YouTube and it will still give you a cookie that'll follow you around and tell you where and knows where you've been.
Flash cookies too, right?
Yeah, self-destructing cookies also works in the mobile version of Firefox.
Self-destructing cookies is my Actually, I switched back to Firefox from Chrome, so it's been good so far. It's really fast. It's way faster than I remember it being when I switched to Chrome.
Chrome has just gotten really unreliable, hasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I still use Chrome once in a while, but I've switched to Firefox back both here. Second thing I have a tip for iOS, and only because I know a lot of readers out there have iPhones. They don't want to talk about it. It's a secret. I know I was talking with one of our freelancers last week and found out he had an iPhone. It was kind of like we had to keep it.
Did he apologize?
It's kind of
He
funny.
come up and apologize.
I just want to mention this really quickly. I don't want to turn this into an iPhone thing, but this is a tip from iOS 6 that if you receive a call on the iPhone, if you swipe up from the bottom of the screen, you'll get the chance to reply to the phone call with a text message that's pre-formatted for you. It's really, really cool. You can even go in and pre-configure the messages to reply to.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Shut up. So by default, the messages that you can use are "I'll call you later," "What's up," "I'm on my way," and also some customized things. So check that out. And then the last thing I want to have here, this is my little mini pick too. I have this mini pick. This is a cat. Now, this is my favorite cat of the week. This is a cat that's in a carrier, and he's really scared, and he keeps saying Al Gore. I'm going to play this really quickly. Here we go.
This has not been modified.
I think it's kind of creepy myself.
It's really cute.
It's fine.
What is
Now he
that
does-
cat trying
he
to
does-
say?
Okay, here he goes. Here we go. The last one.
It's pretty eerie.
All right, so that's it for me. Oh, you know what? Let me throw one more in there. If you want to buy a big bag of chips for your entire office to share, on Amazon they have these on-the-border style tortilla chips. It's a 24-ounce bag. It's absolutely massive, and you can get 4 bags for $17.
Goes great with
Man,
5-gallon
Josh got
cheeseburgers.
trifecta of picks.
Yeah.
Why
The
don't you just-
trifecta
yeah,
of Josh
yeah.
Norem
You just had to
picks.
pick 3, didn't you?
Those are my picks for the week, and that's basically about it for the picks. Let's get into
Damn
it here.
overachievers.
All right, here we go.
Now it's time for Gordon Ma-Ung's Rant of the Week.
I am not giving another goddamn dollar to Ridley Scott with his Blade Runner industrial complex. Fuck that. I don't get shit. San Francisco? So I shit you not.
What?
People are going to be like, oh, he wasn't
Is
talking
that
then.
still the soundboard?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's hard to tell, isn't it?
What the f does Web 2.0 mean? I mean, come on. I was on the internet in like 1988, and then nobody was numbering these things.
All right, here's my question. No. Well, let's read. I was noticing. Do you remember? Now, Chris won't because he was like, I don't know, 2 at the time. Do you guys remember when they actually held congressional hearings into Ted Turner, he'd bought the rights to old classics, like, I don't know, Gone with the Wind. I don't even know if that was in color.
Wizard
But he
of
said,
Oz.
you know what? I want to see this in color, right? So he's like, okay, well, I bought the rights. I'm going to release these colorized. People freaked the fuck out. Don't you remember? Like,
Yeah.
you can't take these classics and destroy them. That's like taking, who's some artist that's like famous, right? It's like taking Da Vinci and fucking dropping a crap on it to improve it, right? That's just, you cannot do this.
Wait.
This
What?
is classic.
Do you have an
art.
example of what movies Ted Turner purchased?
I forget. I mean, it was like Gone with the Wind, I swear to God. Something
Okay.
like that, right? So he buys some.
films from the 30s.
It wasn't like Grandma's Boy.
It wasn't Grandma's
No,
Boy. It
yeah.
wasn't the one. Yeah.
good
So
movies.
He bought these. He wanted to do it. Everybody freaked out. They're saying this is like taking a historical building and then fucking adding like a jacuzzi on the outside on the top of or something like that. You know. Basically, he backed off because like, oh, this is too much, bad press. Everybody's pissed off at me. I am not going to colorize these movies, right? So here's my question. If they can do that just because he's going to fucking colorize movies, why can't they stop people from goddamn all these remakes and these reboots? Because what's worse, taking Gone with the Wind, adding a little bit of color to it, or fucking remaking all the classic movies, but fucking them up?
That reminds me. I heard yesterday that there's going to be a sequel to Blade Runner.
Are you serious?
I mentioned that because I heard you saying Blade Runner in the on the soundboard, Yeah.
Right, because Blade Runner was just a classic, and this is a Ridley Scott thing, right? He's like, okay, this is the way the studio made me come out with this one. You bought the studio version, but this is how I wanted it done. Okay, actually, that's not how I wanted it done. So this is actually really the way I wanted. Like all those, all that like Harrison Ford talking over the shit. No, this is the way I wanted it. So buy this one. Okay, I bought the studio one. Then I bought your first release. Then I bought the second release. And then it's finally like, no, this is really how I wanted it done. So buy it one more time, right? There were like 4 fucking versions.
You're talking about remakes of movies by the original director or shit like Total Recall with that?
I'm talking about like Total Recall, right?
Okay.
Classic movie or Star Trek or...
What about RoboCop?
They're going to remake RoboCop?
Yeah, that's coming, man.
See?
Oh, wait, what about Red Dawn?
Oh, and Red Dawn.
Oh,
Red Dawn,
my
a
God.
classic nihilist movie, fucked up beyond all... I just can't believe it. I didn't even watch it. It looked so bad.
There was an entry on IMDb for Blade Runner 2 Zombie Boogaloo. I don't think that's the film I was talking about.
No, I don't think so. But, I mean, let's face it. The government can step in and stop Ted Turner from fucking colorizing movies. That's cool. But they need to do something about these people trashing our memories. Are they going to remake everything? You're going to redo Star Wars, Jaws? What else are they going to ruin?
Well, they also they're
Wait, they're going to ruin Star Wars. That's already in the works, Gordon.
Right, but no, that's 7, 8,
Sorry,
and 9,
Chris.
right? That's 7, 8, and 9. I'm talking about redoing 4, 5, and 6. Right, so they're gonna, they're gonna
George
redo
Lucas
it.
already ruined those, dude.
He did 1,
Oh,
2,
not
and
4,
3.
5, and 6. Okay, I get what you're
So
saying.
they're gonna, they're gonna fucking remake them at some point. There needs to be congressional hearings to stop these assholes from fucking up our memories.
On the bright side, it does look like Ridley Scott is going to be
I don't know if-
directing the sequel.
How is that a bright side?
Well,
Is it going to be like Prometheus?
as opposed to some like hack who's only directed like music videos and
No.
serial
no.
commercials.
No, it's better.
Actually,
to
I think Ridley Scott was originally a commercial director. So
he
maybe
was, but I
shouldn't be.
mean, what happens when it sucks? Like Prometheus, and you're going to be like, people are going to be, they're going to be heartbroken. So you guys, what? You guys can't back this? Federal government needs to send the National Guard into Hollywood to stop the remakes.
It's kind of like when, what though? Here's the thing. It's kind of like when someone commits some sort of heinous crime, is it the kid's fault? Is it the parents' fault? Blah, blah, blah. It's like the same thing. Like, let's say all these actors that were in Red Dawn. Now, do you blame the actors for taking the role, or do you blame the writer? Do you blame the director, the studio for greenlighting it in the first place? I mean, all those people should be blamed at some point. It's hard to really pinpoint who needs to be publicly flogged.
Films are such a large production.
Yeah.
Compared to like writing a book where it's just one asshole.
But they can
Instead-
still, I'm just saying, if there's just, they can stop Ted
what
Turner
would
from
be
doing it. They can stop Hollywood from doing
what
it.
about-
Well, they should have
wait,
stopped
wait.
Indiana Jones too. They didn't stop Indiana Jones. They didn't stop Star Trek. They should have not even named those Star Trek movies Star Trek movies.
Indiana
They're fucking
Jones.
up.
Indiana Jones had lots of potential, which I think is probably why they didn't stop it. Whereas like a remake of Planet of the Apes was,
Right.
It was-
Again.
Mark Wahlberg.
yeah.
Or if that was ruined.
What about this? What about this for a reality TV show? The guy who originally wrote the original Red Dawn goes to pay a visit to the guy who the screenwriter for the new Red Dawn, and he basically just beats the shit out of him.
Oh, that would be awesome.
I think John Milius could actually do that.
We were actually talking about this the other day. We were like, can you think of a single film whose remake was better? I couldn't think of any. If you guys can think of any,
It's impossible.
I mean,
The only
absolutely
remake
feel free
I've
to let
ever
us know.
experienced that I thought was better than the original was "Whiskey in the Jar" by Metallica, which is a song.
Okay.
That's pretty good though.
Well, songs are different. I can think of a few songs like All Along the Watchtower. Jimi Hendrix's version was.
Yeah.
Even Bob Dylan himself said, "Yeah, I think you have the definitive version of that song." But when it comes to film, nothing really comes to mind.
Well, they only remake. See, the thing is, they only remake films that were good, right? They don't
Yeah.
remake shitty movies.
They just have to go and ruin the good stuff.
Are they doing RoboCop too? Are they doing RoboCop?
Yeah, RoboCop is coming 2014, Gordon. Are you
And
stoked?
It's a remake of the original, or is it?
I'm pretty sure.
See, I think my problem
No,
is
but also they fucked up RoboCop because he's supposed to be like this action guy jumping off motorcycles and
What?
shit. Yeah. Oh, I gotta bring this up.
Oh, good.
I mean,
Stoke the rage.
this is the perfect time for government intervention, don't you think?
It's not going to happen, Gordon. Sorry. You'd be better off directing your efforts towards things that are more feasible.
No.
We need a Washington lobby.
Well, I'm gonna go. We're gonna march on DC to demand hearings into the reboots of our classic movies that are ruining them.
What about this shit? Hey, wait a second. Look at this. I'm trying to read an article while Gordon's ranting. I'm trying to find some information. It says to continue reading the story, you need to be a digital subscriber to sfchronicle.com.
Yes.
This
yes.
is some bullshit, man.
Because they want money.
I know.
Money.
Crazy.
Not very considerate.
Jesus.
Just need to put some more ads on the page.
There was one where it was perfect. I gotta show you.
Oh, hey, let me talk about this one. So wait. So I went. You could look up the trailer, but in the meantime, so I go to Denver for a cousin's wedding. I'm coming back. Now it's interesting. I don't know what it is, but the TSA people in Denver, man, they are hard asses, man. I don't know what it is, because in Oakland, it's like, you just go ahead and go through. This is a gun? I was like, is it? Oh, it's a small caliber? Go ahead. It's not a problem, right? But in Denver, it's like, whoa, this tube of toothpaste? You need to get out of line and go back. Oh, damn. But so I'm in line. I'm like, I'm ready. Because it's like, all right, this shit's ready. I got to take my belt off, change, phone, watch, everything in the bag, which goes through the little scanner thing. There's not a single thing on me except for the ticket. But I take my belt off, right? Because you got to take your belt off because the belt buckle won't go through the scanner thing. So I take the belt buckle off. I go through the scanner thing, and the guy's like, "Whoa, you got to step aside, sir." I'm like, "Whoa, what's up?" I was like, "There's not a damn thing on me." He's like, "Well, I got to check your ankles because your pants are bunched up because could have like a fucking RPG in your ankle or something, right?" So he goes down, pats to the ankle. I was like, "Here's a tip, sir." Here's a tip, sir. Next time you go through the scanner, pull your pants up so they don't bunch up. Okay, look, I go through the scanner. You got to stick your fucking arms up. How am I going to hold my fucking pants up, right? You took my belt off to go through the scanner.
You don't wear suspenders?
No, yeah. When you get a TSA suspenders, they're like, look, my hands are up. I can't hold my pants. They're going to go down. That was his tip.
Why are you wearing...
Well,
wait a second. I cannot even fathom Gordon wearing baggy pants.
They're not baggy, but with the pant, you're in line.
Without a belt,
down.
take your belt off.
There's
I mean, you don't know what's going to happen. Isn't the Denver airport the one that has like half a dozen conspiracy theories? Like it was built by blindfolded Freemasons who no one ever heard from again. And
yeah, apparently there's some invisible city underneath too or something. I'm just saying though, that's tip.
That's probably why they're extra serious.
So if you're going through TSA, the tip is somehow hold your pants up or you're holding your hands up in the air with your belt off.
Well, that is some bullshit, and that brings our show to the end. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. We appreciate it. And if you want to go online and leave a review, please head on over to iTunes. It really does help us out. If you want to send us a question we can read on the show, email us at maximumpcpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to call and leave a message for us, if it's good, we will play it on the show. I looked in today's inbox before the show. There were no voicemails in the inbox.
Is that Frowny Fest?
You should have seen the look on my face, and one single tear slid out of my eye.
Not even any creepy breathing?
No. It was really sad.
That's disappointing.
So the number for that is 1-877-404-1337. That's 1-877-404-1337. You get that? You see what we did there? 404?
That's pretty clever.
1337. Extension 1337. If you want to subscribe to the magazine, please check us out. We're on Google Play, iTunes, Kindle, Nook, and Zinio. And, of course, we're still in print. All right. On behalf of Chris Zele, Tom McNamara, and Gordon Ung, thanks so much. See you next time.